Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is another video tutorial by Christopher Kuro. This time, I would like to cover some basics of a typography exercise. It is a blog post on christopherkuro.com called Zen of Creative Typography, and this is a video tutorial that follows up with that tutorial or article. And I just want to kind of go through the basics of it today and how to kind of achieve this exercise and kind of get started. Now, this basic exercise was a fundamental exercise that I did during my undergraduate studies, and I found out that it was very helpful for me even till this day, because it really helped me kind of exercise my brain to execute some creative typography and layout and whatnot on my professional and personal projects. So let's get started here real quick. So the idea here is to start a document about 5 by 5 inches or 6 by 6. I started a 10 by 10 inch. I find 10 by 10 to work pretty well because for the most part, because I get to kind of work with space, and it's a good size. But if you are looking to print it out, make sure that you kind of start off by maybe 7 by 7, so it fits on an 8.5 by 11 paper, at least in the US. So again, for demonstration purposes, I'm using a 10 by 10 here, and then the general idea is to get your favorite band and favorite album, and get all the track listing as well as the band name, which for me was Muse, and then the album name, which is called Original Symmetry for me, and just have the band name, album name, and then the track listing, and try to create some kind of unique typographic layout. Now, one important thing is this is strictly typography. There's no pictures involved, so the focus here is on how to kind of generate creative typographic layout without the assistance or the asset of other elements. So at first, again, the very first initial exercise is to get the track listings and kind of create a creative layout. So again, you can be pretty original or pretty unique even with just such a simple one size font and then one weight. So we're not using any bold or italicized or anything like that. We're going to focus on one size and then one weight for the very first exercise. So my first off, my font size is at 12 point, and then my weight is at regular. So that is just the basic premise of the rules that I'm going to give myself. Now, again, we're going to try to see what kind of creative typography we can make out of this. It could be something simple, maybe, but the focus here is to create something really unique. So it really kind of helps you be very limited yet think of things in a creative way. So again, I kind of created something here. Maybe one section of the track listing is offset, and the other is another on another side. Maybe I don't know. Again, it's really up to you to kind of create something unique and pretty substandard to something you see. Again, you have a lot of room to be creative within the space, so don't do something like super boring such as this. I mean, maybe this is even already unique in itself, maybe, but again, you have a lot of room to be creative. Now, the basic rule is to stick with one size and one weight, but doesn't say anything about you not being able to rotate the typography or anything like that. So maybe I'll rotate it, like that, and then let's create something kind of unique here. Or maybe I'll just take a really, very unique approach to it and just create, a nice little layout with the track listings, like that, maybe. I don't know. This is up to you. So this is the first phase of the exercise. It will really kind of help you be limited yet learn to help you think in a creative way, to just kind of work, practice with layout and typography. The second phase of the project is to use one size and one weight. So we're going to be using a different weight here. So let's just take the track listing, the album name, and change this to bold. Maybe you might be not be able to see the difference, but as you can see, it's bolded here. Maybe create something like something that's like stuck together like this, maybe, or maybe a little bit separated. I don't know. Let's see here. There we go. And as you can see, bold is something that emphasizes emphasizes the type, from the as an album name. So again, this practice here is to use one size, one weight. So we're not changing the font size per se, but we are definitely changing the font weight. I mean, yeah, font weight. Okay, so let's change that. Maybe the track listing is bold instead. And again, I'm sticking with just one size, and then maybe kind of creating something unique. Maybe something like this. Maybe I'll line it together. I don't know. I mean, again, it's really up to you. But, try to be kind of unique with it. Play with the rotation, play with the angles, It's really up to you. So again, that's the second phase of the exercise where you could kind of practice with layout as well as kind of using emphasis with bold type. The third part, the next step is to use two size, one weight. So we're not going to be able to rely on the weight anymore. So we're just going to turn this back to normal now, but we're going to be able to play with a different size. So what are we going to do? Maybe I will change this to 18 point, and then maybe just kind of try to play around with it. Now remember, the important thing here is that if you choose one size, so I chose 18 point on this one, if we choose one size, you have to stick with that one size for the second weight. So for instance, if I chose 18, I'm going to obviously have to use 18 wherever else I'm going to differentiate the size. So I'm going to play around like that, and then maybe create something super simple. Something like that. Here you go. And then just kind of take this track listing here, twist, place it here. I don't know. Again, it's really about you being kind of creative and creating something original. Again, maybe 18 is too big, so maybe I'll try 16. And then again, I mean, just because one part of the track listing is 16 point doesn't mean I can't use the original font size of 12 point, which I used here. So I can definitely use that the 12 point font elsewhere. I mean, on the track listing, and maybe kind of adjust the spacing in between, and then maybe kind of include in the big fonts in between here like that. Now again, just because the track listing is in one order or specific numerical order doesn't mean you have to follow it. So obviously I just completely rearranged the track listing right now. But regardless, I am still following the rule of two size, one weight. So, maybe something like this. And again, I want to try to differentiate the band name and the track listing away from each other a little bit. So, there is a different significant viewpoint, band name, album name, and then the track listing. And again, you want to kind of focus the layout and something, visualize. Maybe there's a photo backdrop in the background if this was to be a CD cover or something, and then just, you have this kind of unique typography going. But again, here's the third round. Now the fourth round is called two size, two weight. So basically, you can use two weights here. So I can use bold. Maybe I'll bold one of them. Maybe, I don't know. And then maybe I'll place this over here, and then another over here. It's kind of starting to look like a tag cloud on blogs and whatnot, but it's okay. So here we go. We're using two sizes and two weights. Maybe I'll get this one and turn it into bold. Again, I'm still sticking with the two size, two weight rule, but just because the 16 point font is bold doesn't mean that the 12 point can't be bold. So again, maybe I'll rotate this. And then just kind of play around with it. Of course, I'm doing this really fast right now, so I'm not really fully utilizing my creativity here, just for the sake of example. But as you can see, I'm kind of utilizing the whole concept of the rules and whatnot. And one of the most important aspects is to kind of use space, to your advantage, to create something clean a little bit, maybe something like that. Maybe one will go offset here all the way to the side here. I don't know. So again, for example purposes, but this is just a test. And maybe I'll try to rotate it around. Maybe this doesn't need to be rotated just to signify this is the band name and this is the album name kind of thing. Maybe I'll just change the band name to be bigger and bold. So I'll just replicate that. And then I'll use this here, the album name, to be normal, but 16. And so again, we're kind of differentiating the track listing with the band name and the album name. I don't know. Again, this is really up to you. But so that is the fourth exercise. On my blog page, there's a section that says experimental, and basically what that is you get to experiment with. You really don't have too much rules. So one type could be much bigger in font size than the other, and it's the whole idea of kind of not having any rules after you've practiced having so much rules. But now we can kind of do some experimental stuff. Maybe have different sizes, and as an example, I'm going to pull up an example here. On my blog site, it shows you that you could any size, any weight is the fifth round, and then you can kind of use any size, any weight to create a really unique layout. Practicing yourself. Again, there's no rules and whatnot. My blog post also shows us round 6, and this is the one that's called experimental. I'm sorry, the previous one is any size, any weight. And the 6th round is called experimental, where you can literally kind of use certain elements. Maybe try using traditional mediums such as paper, canvas, tracing paper, newsprint. Use pen, hand lettering, ink, markers, charcoals, whatnot to create something unique. So this was the example of my experimental phase of the project. Now, I would like to talk about one thing that's on the blog post that will really kind of help you become a unique typographer, and this is called the SWAT tactic. Now, the SWAT tactic doesn't necessarily mean the special weapons and tactics that's used in police, but the nickname kind of came from that, to be honest. So let me go over what the SWAT tactic basically means. SWAT, the S in SWAT stands for size. Basically, when you're working on a typographic project, a personal project, or a commercial project, just make a mental note that you can to experiment with size. So, for instance, if you're experimenting with size, or have size as a consideration, make sure you play with the size. Size plays a big role of significance or emphasis when you're creating typographic layout. So, for instance, if I were to use size as this, how would I design an album cover for Muse using size as an advantage? Well, I would make the band name much more relevant or prominent, and maybe the album name is slightly smaller than the band name, and the track listing is smaller. So this kind of emphasizes the album name, band name, utilizing size. The W in SWAT means weight. Basically means, again, what we talked about is to kind of use different weight as an option. So, for instance, this one right here, like if I were to use 34 point, let's just replicate this. Oops. If I were to use 34 point on all of them, on both of these texts, one of them I could make it regular. So the emphasis right now currently is on the album name instead of the band name, and then using weight as some kind of the emphasizing mechanism. So size is one of them, weight is another one. So that's 2 letters in the acronym SWAT. The A basically means angle. Now, angle basically means rotating. So, for instance, like if you're working on a typographic project, not all letters have to be from left to right or right to left, whichever country you're from. It could be in a different angle. For instance, like this one could be vertical, and then then let's set it like that. And then these track listings doesn't necessarily have to follow all of them. Let's see if it'll help me. There we go. So like for instance, let's use a different angle, and to be unique and creative here. So this one is obviously a 90-degree angle, and this one's the traditional angle. But again, as I was playing with the typography exercise, I was trying to make it diagonal, 45 degrees. Not everything has to be the same way. Maybe this one is like that. I mean, again, so playing with angle, playing with weight, and playing with size when you're creating something unique with typography. So that's SWA, and the T is basically what T means is tracking, or I kind of merge the two together, tracking and kerning. Although they're not the same thing, but just remember that the T in SWAT could be tracking or kerning in my personal while I'm being creative. So let's look at the tracking. Tracking basically means that try using different tracking. Like for instance, in Illustrator, you could just put 50, or if you want to get even more kind of crazy, you could go 150. And although I don't advise always to use such a wide tracking, if you have the room to be creative, maybe one of them is really wide in tracking, and just kind of emphasize that way, and let's just set this to normal or regular. There we go. I'm gonna go a little crazy here. There we go. And then maybe the other ones are super close together, so we could do negative 80, or again, maybe this one is super wide, so we could do like 600 or something crazy. Let's just go crazy on this one. So here we go, and there we go. Just it really depends on your project, obviously, but again, something to keep in mind while you're trying to be creative with typography is the tracking. Now the kerning, again, as I said, the T also covers kerning, but I mean, it really depends on how you look at things. But basically, a kerning is the space between the letters, while the tracking is the space between words or as a whole. You can have individual spacing, obviously, with kerning, but it's the whole idea that we can use kerning as kind of like a creative element. Like for instance, I could space things out here like that, kind of all coming together, and kind of like a fluid motion kind of thing. And again, kerning really kind of helps you establish kind of the idea of kinetics, or this is kind of flying in here. I don't know. Again, it's really based on your creativity and whatnot. Kerning could be adjusted in Illustrator easily, utilizing this little section right here. And again, this one's set to 920, or you can actually use Command or Alt and the arrow keys to kind of space them out like that, to be kind of creative. So again, that is the kind of like the basic concept of what a SWAT tactic is. Again, if you find this to be useful, and I really hope that you do, the typography exercise has really helped me shape myself as a typographer as well as a graphic designer, and it's something that will probably in the long run help you out. So I hope this video tutorial was helpful, and thank you for watching.